Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.
We have to treat even the employees within the company as a customer of what HR does. So everything that I will do to a customer to say that this is how it is going to positively impact you, this is why you should latch on to it. It's all a brand communication and marketing campaign.
Harshita, what happens with HR professionals often we've noticed is that they start building specializations as they go further into their careers, whether it is organizational design or it is learning and development or it is talent acquisition. What were the roles that you were most comfortable with and you developed a certain liking for them over time? And what are some of the roles that you were like, okay, maybe I'm not fit for this or maybe I don't enjoy it so much?
To be very honest, I've been very fortunate to do roles that I've always really liked, right? So, and I've always consciously designed my career in a way that I have exposure of being an HR business partner, where you're front ending the whole HR piece. And if you see my career, half of it is around that space. And then really getting into the mold, having learned certain things, being as an HR business partner, nearer to the clientele, having learned what makes impact, I took that learning to become more of a COE. I love being an HR business partner. I really feel that's where you feel the rush of a lot of things that happen. You're there in thick of things of solving issues, solutions, small employee issues to big strategic decisions within businesses. But as a COE, having had that experience, the kind of solutions that you can provide as a subject matter expert is also something that I've always liked. So one of the spaces I really enjoy as an HR professional is the whole learning and development, talent development space,
Right.
where you get to uh, really make those big shifts for organization or put pieces for the organization which have a long term impact. So let's take a case in point when we are even looking at salespeople and looking at really building talent internally. Sometimes organizations, while they put people into development centers, assessment centers, forget that have we put enough into them to be successful. So created a whole bunch of learning over 6 to 9 months for high potential people who could become sales managers, and really put in those efforts into making them successful as they take on the bigger jobs.
Between senior management, middle management, and young, managers or young officers, in each of these cases, what are the biggest challenges that an L&D manager faces?
The piece with fresh joinees, and I'll start from there, because if that's built strong, then the rest of it gets builds much stronger. I think the fresh joinees or the fresh into the whole management space need to see that how something will be a direct or an instant value addition to me. That connect for them has to be crystal clear, right? Because they are establishing themselves, they're establishing their credibility, they need something to pick, use, move. So you have to design things which will add value quickly to them, right? Also, they are learning with you that what learning can do for them, right? So you
Right.
give them something and hook them into the whole learning and development thing by showing them quick results, right? So shorter modules, action modules, modules which are tweaked to their learning style, right? Those
Right.
are things that we should look at. When it comes to middle management, we should always remember we're talking to experienced people. There are set things that they have already experienced, exposures and learnings that they have had, right? If you're trying to sort of bring in a very different concept to them, they may need to unlearn a lot of things that they have had as exposure and experiences. So one is the whole unlearning thing, if there is a need for that for middle management, and that's a tough one to do, right? They have exposures, they have experiences. Sometimes while creating learning and development programs, we do not give enough credit to what exposures and experiences they always already have. So as a learning and development professional, you should always give credit to it and then tell them how maybe a different concept may add to what they already know. So
Right.
cracking them over there is tough, but give them credit for what they have learned. I always feel they are the ones, from the top they get pushed, from the bottom they get pushed. They are the sandwiched layer in the middle. And that
Right.
leader sometimes needs a lot of support in doing what they really do in organizations. With leaders, I truly feel that if a leader has a focus of talent development, of learning and development, you wouldn't find it very difficult, because the leader will be invested in making sure that his people develop and will own that with you. If there is a leader for whom the whole people pillar, as they call in an organization, is not really the focus area, that's where you will find it difficult.
Let's move into your next job now. You picked up the world's largest FMCG. After having worked for a couple of FMCGs and a big engineering company, you went to Nestle. It's very different from being a blue-eyed kid entering a new organization. This is, you're supposed to start delivering the next day you join. So what was that like?
So Nestle again was a very conscious choice. I had never done talent acquisition as a COE. And I really took up this job as a challenge to myself, because I always thought maybe this space I might not be very good at. But I said, no, let's give it a try. And of course, I'm not saying Nestle was easier as an FMCG, but FMCG was a little known to me. And I said, okay, if we want to experiment this role this time and not really the context, the biggest thing that I got in Nestle was a very clean slate, right? There was a clean slate to put the whole campus hiring, etc., together, and there was a clean slate to put lateral hiring together. And I was given the whole responsibility, or even the free hand, to sort of define that slate. And when as an employee you get that opportunity to define it like you think and you believe it can deliver, of course I will give credit to myself and my team that we delivered. But when you're giving that opportunity to define it yourself, I think that was really exciting for me. Picture this: you are the world's largest FMCG. You go to the best of the campuses every year to hire people. Sometimes you're able to get the best slots in the country, and sometimes you aren't. As a FMCG, if I'm going on campus, I would want to get the best slot, hire from the best slot. But what is important for it? Nestle is a very big company, but positioning itself as the biggest employer, positioning itself with what we can provide when a talent joins the company, right, was one of the tasks and one of the agendas we had. We had social presence. We were very well known. Everybody eats Maggie, right? But were we well known as an employer? Were we well known as the best employer on campus? Right? Those were some of the challenges which came in. So whether it was social media, whether it was about our leaders going on campus and talking, everything had to be put in place like a 360-degree campaign for us as an employer on campus. And we had fantastic results. To get the best talent from campus, the 360-degree campaign around employer of choice that we ran got us the best rankings, including on your platform, and established people what employer we were. And that was very important, because you want to get the best, you want to attract the best. We have to treat even the employees within the company as a customer of what HR does. Right? So everything that I will do to a customer to say that this is how it is going to positively impact you, this is why you should latch on to it, it's all a brand communication and marketing campaign, right?
Right.
Like a marketer, especially in the brand marketing side of it, we are selling a brand, right? Whether I sell Nestle or a Honeywell or Freshworks as a brand on campus, or whether I sell the HR policies, practices, etc., internal to the company. I really feel today, as an HR professional, this is one skill that we should all sort of develop and latch on to.
What were some of the things that you picked up at Nestle as a part of middle management that helped enhance you as an individual, as a professional?
Some of the things that I picked up was, one, believe in your people, right? Believe in them, have their back, push them when you need to push them, but believe in them. Create that ecosystem where they can believe in you, they can trust you. Nestle taught me the importance of trust. The other thing is, give people the ability to design their slate. Of course, we have roles and responsibilities, but let them design how would they like to do it, right? Give that ownership to them. So ownership is the second thing, right? The third thing is also that treat a person as a whole individual.
It must have been a very drastic shift to go from the world's largest FMCG to a young startup. what made you make that transition? What were your initial teething troubles that you went through? How did you overcome them?
Again, as I said, this was the second one that I did to test myself, was to say that fortunately, having worked in the biggest names in the world, in the brands, etc., and almost like about 11 years having worked in the HR domain, I really thought it was time to test myself into something very different. And I think it was just a very conscious step. I still say, when I interview people today for Freshworks and they ask my experience, I said I walked with my eyes and ears open as to what I was walking for into. So it was a very different experience, but a very conscious experience. And when you make
Right.
conscious experiences, you also see what identifies you with the organization. You've already created those hooks for yourself. And I think with Freshworks, the kind of culture the company has, those hooks are very easy to create for a person.
When you were interviewing for Freshworks,
Yeah.
what was that one thing that made you decide that, okay, this is something I'm going to take up?
So two things. One, uh, having been a professional, worked in big mature organization for 10, 11 years, you take things to a version 2 or a version 3 because things have existed, right? But in Freshworks, you get to create them. A
Right.
role in its this form did not exist before I came, right? It gives you a very different exposure and it tests your muscle, right? Because the
Right.
organization growth scale is just at a very different level. It's just the growth rate is very different. It's a hyper growth environment. I think just the excitement of building things and getting my muscle tested was something that I thought would be good and to try.
You mentioned this aspect of uh, legacy organizations. Often your job is to build a version 2 or a version 3, whereas in a startup you're building it for the first time. So then does the hiring of talent also differ in a legacy organization versus a startup?
And I believe this, that as we hire people in newer organization like Freshworks, as you said, not so new anymore. I think we're pretty decently big now. Uh,
Right.
um, I think we do look for people who are ready to work at both sides of the paradigm, right? There are things we have set up, you'll take to version 2, version 3, and there are things that you will have to set up. Are you comfortable with that scale, right? Can you work here and here? We do ask people that would you be comfortable with this, and of course when we ask them, we do see if they've had exposures like that, right? And again, as I said, resilience. Do you have the resilience to work on both sides of the paradigm?
Right.
Because that's the challenge what organizations like ours provide, right? That's the excitement that we provide.
When you are hiring people at various levels at different points of time, what are some of your favorite questions that you always ask?
My favorite question is always what you did, why you did, how you did, and what was the impact. To be very honest, Kunj, it's been a while that been interviewing. So sometimes can figure out when someone's really going there or not going there,
Yeah, yeah.
able to do that. But what, why, how, and what did it finally what happened is one. The other thing, Kunj, I really ask people when I want to hire them, and that I have learned because I've been very fortunate to work in organizations who've taught me a lot about culture. Because as I said, very simple, but I do believe hire for attitude and train for skills. I always ask, what do you look for in an employer? What does make you, what as an employer should I have to make you thrive? So I also want to understand people, what will make them thrive? And do I have that with me?
You know, I saw this movie once, Up in the Air,
Mhm.
and it was about George Clooney firing people,
Yeah.
and I was like, that there is an art to that as well, right? Like you want to do it sensitively, you want to do it the right way. What are some of the things that you keep in mind when you are firing someone?
I think we owe it to every individual who's in that kind of a situation is to really know why we have reached that decision, right? Have we as an organization or as HR given enough time, have enough data, coached enough before we had to take that decision? There are a lot of organizations, Kunj, and I wouldn't take names here, but they also do a lot of work in providing support and coaching to such individuals when this decision is being taken. You have to
Right.
make sure that, one, if that decision is reached, why it is reached, has the person understood it, and if there is a need to provide support, are we doing enough for that? That's my
Right.
view as an HR professional.
Today we see on social media, even when students are deciding their careers, that the HR profession is often dissed by people who don't know things well enough. They will say stuff like they just organize rangoli making competitions on Diwali, and they send greetings, and they don't understand the importance of HR. And that is why a lot of people then make their career decisions basis this kind of advice. So to students who are considering maybe doing a career, having a career in HR, what is your message right from the horse's mouth, rather than listening to uncles and aunties who don't particularly understand this space?
My only thing to them is that, as I said, HR today and plays really a trend sensor role. Our role has become to sense the next 3 steps for the organization and let our business model around people be defined like that. It's a very, very different role that we are playing today. Yes, we do engagement. Yes, we hire people. Yes, we will still organize those things for people, because that's part of what we do. But being able to directionally tell business what is the right thing to do in terms of people, what is going to make people be more efficient, where is the productivity going to come from, are the solutions that an HR professional gives. So I
Right.
really feel that, I'm again saying, for HR, reach out to people who have been in that profession, understand from them what is really happening, right? How are you adding that value to business? Why
Right.
today people want to hire a CHRO very early in the in an organization's life? Because they know that it's not just to organize those things, but directionally, as the businesses are growing, someone needs to play that role of creating that people strategy, because that's
Right.
what's going to make the cut for the and the differentiation for the organization.
Thank you so much for your time, Arshita.
Thank you so much.